everybody? Welcome back, Pokemon Purveyors. Another week here on the channel. I'm Jules. I'm one of your hosts. I got my co-host, Mr. Wonderful himself, Shad, aka PokeNav, on YouTube. And we have another guest, as you guys can see. But let's introduce the co-host today. Shad, buddy, how's it been?
I'm good, man. I wish I could take that title, but I think it's actually been taken already. And I don't want to get into a legal battle with him because I know he'd win 10 times out of 10. But I'm doing good, man. Glad to be back here with you once again. As you guys know, my name is Shad, aka PokeNav, fellow host here on the Pokemon Purveyors. We come back each and every week. If you guys enjoy pretty much everything from collecting, investing, competitive play related to the TCG, or if you just like to hear grown men talk about shiny cardboard, you've come to the right place. And as Jules said, not only do you get to hear two grown men talk about shiny cardboard, but we have thrice this week. Jules, who do we have the pleasure of speaking with tonight?
Well, guys, as you can see already from the video, if you guys are watching us on YouTube, if you're listening to us out on the podcast platforms, you might not be able to see it yet, but we have none other than Millennial Collector from YouTube, Mr. Mark. How are you, my fellow Canadian buddy?
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm just really excited to join you, and I'm probably going to learn a few things today and excited to talk about Pokemon. And like you said, shiny cardboard, this is a lot of fun. And I may appear like a man, but I am certainly still a child at heart. And that's why I love talking about this stuff.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Exactly. I think we all feel the same way when you said that for sure. Just brings you back that nostalgia and the childhood of being in those in your schoolyard and whatever the case is, and just having fun with the boys, the friends, the girls, whatever it is. Everybody collects. So guys, with that being said, Mark, we're gonna leave the floor open to you a little bit here. And we just like to know, for all the people listening and watching out there, give us a little bit of information about yourself and how you got into the hobby, and take it away.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm the Millennial Collector. I started a YouTube channel just a little under a year ago. And it's been a wild ride, and a lot of things have changed for me as I've continued to develop. But when I go even further back, where I started in this hobby was back where most people started back in the late 90s when Pokemon became a thing. And me with I remember it was with my cousins. They started collecting these Pokemon cards, and I've always been a collector, whether it be coins, whether it be cards, whether it be hockey cards or sports cards. I've always loved that. And it was not always for me just collecting the favorite. I always loved the monetary side of it. I was like the rare cards. I was like the difficult to find cards. And that's what got me into Pokemon cards. And then I was there for Jungle, I was there for Fossil and Base Set, obviously, but then it faded away for many years. And honestly, I had been away from Pokemon, and I kind of knew a little bit about it here and there. But I went to college. I did all the regular things you're supposed to do as grow up as an adult. And uh, it was when Hidden Fates came out, as when a lot of people get brought back into the hobby was Hidden Fates. And I heard on the news and I read an article about the $10,000 Charizard that was sold, the black label shiny Charizard. And I'm like, wow, I want $10,000. So I was on working, and I was on the road on a business trip, and I stopped into a Walmart. I had an evening free, so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna find a $10,000 Charizard. So I went in, grabbed some Hidden Fates, and that's what really reignited my passion for the hobby, and getting back into buying vintage cards and buying WotC cards, and then eventually creating a YouTube channel because I wanted to share my passion with the world. So that's what really brought me back into it, and it's been a lot of fun. I've met some amazing people. This community is really one of the best communities I've ever been involved with. So yeah, I love everything about Pokemon, and excited to continue to learn more.
Excellent, excellent. That's a nice we call it a chemin, a nice road, a nice path you took there for sure. It's Shad. Do you think it sounds kind of similar to ours? I guess what it comes down to is when you group a bunch of men around the same age, pretty much, it it kind of seems like we kind of come through that whole phase of going through it, then stopping, and then coming back into it. Shad, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I think for most men, you gather three men together, they're probably going to talk about like sports cars or tools or something like that. But this, I guess, ours is the generation where we talk about Pokemon, which I love it because I don't care about muscle cars. I don't care about tools. This is what I love. But yeah, Mark, your story is so reminiscent because Jules and myself, we have a very similar background of really starting in that generation one era, starting with red and blue, starting with base at Jungle
Mm.
Fossil. Um, both of us really got out around the same time, probably similar for you. For me, it was once the Neo era was finished. So after Generation 2, I took a long hiatus. I got back in around 2016
No.
when really around like evolutions, but more specifically around like the 20th anniversary. That's really when I got back into it. Jules had a short stint in 2016 as well. Went through evolutions and then took another small break from it and then came
Yeah,
back in around the same time as yourself around Hidden Fates. But it is a recurring theme that we see amongst our guests and just other people in the community is, and it makes sense, right? As you said, you were going to college during that time, same thing for us. We were going through college, going through school. Pokemon, wasn't the quote unquote cool thing, at that time. And it kind of showed. It kind of showed over those years, really from like 2005 to like 2015 or so. But now that many of us have kind of grown up, found our way, and have a little bit more disposable income, you're starting to see more and more people come back in. And with
Well,
that
and
being
and
said, oh, go
oh,
ahead.
yeah, just sorry to jump in there, to really add on to that point is what brought me back into it and having that disposable income. Hidden Fates was part of it, but I never had the base set Charizard. I always wanted it because that was the creme de la creme. Like that was
Mhm.
what everyone wanted, and I ended up buying a collection a little over a year ago. That I ended up grading through PSA, and it's worth way more money now than I ever could imagine. But that's what it starts it because it's that nostalgia. We didn't have money when we were younger. We have a little bit
mm-hmm.
of money now, and we can have fun and play a little bit. So it's, yeah, that's you're right. It is a lot of people same story.
Mhm. Mhm. And the question that I have for you, in relation to that is, obviously now things are different. You've got a family, you're a dad now, and taking all of that previous experience that you had, what made you or what gave you the impetus to jump onto YouTube and really start broadcasting or projecting your passion for this hobby?
It's a good question. It's funny. I went through a difficult time in my life actually, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and uh, I needed something to kind of hold on to in that time, and needed something to take my mind off of some challenges in life, and Pokemon was perfect for that. There was some
Mhm.
amazing content creators that I followed and still follow that really inspired me. That hey, I can do that. That's really cool, and seeing how they impacted their community around them positively. And I wanted to do the same thing. I feel like I was in a not a great spot in my life, and it was an opportunity for me to try and turn it around and meet some people. And I've met people all over the world now that I consider friends. And when we can travel again, I look forward to finally meeting people face to face.
Yes,
It's
Mhm.
yes.
it's uh, so it was at the beginning, it was a bit of an outlet for me, to be honest. And I didn't really have any big intentions for it, and it's kind of snowballed, and people like what I do on my channel, which I find incredible, and it's allowed me to enjoy a hobby and enjoy it with the community.
Mhm. No, exactly. And you're so right. It's same thing that Jules and I, well, I mean, Jules and myself, we never would have met had, we had taken the plunge, gone on to YouTube, but, more generally, really delve more into the hobby. We never would have met. We never would be doing this podcast. And I'm sure you can attest to that fact with people who you have met, friends that you've made, probably never would have happened if you hadn't taken that leap.
Exactly. And that's the incredible part of this community, is that people do get connected, and friendships form, and we can have that common bond of Pokemon cards, of that shiny cardboard that can,
Hmm.
bond us.
Hmm.
It's a shiny card. Like when you put it down to just the bare basics and you take a step back and you're like, dude, wow, we got serious issues sometimes.
I guess there's probably worse things in life we could be spending our money on
That's
and
true.
time on,
That's
but
true.
but
Hmm.
it's probably better things too, I suppose. But I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's important for us to all have hobbies, beyond work, beyond life. It's good to have
Hmm.
healthy hobby like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and really, I think that it has proliferated a lot because of the pandemic. People want
Mhm.
that social connection still, and if they're not able to get it face to face, the next best thing is to do it over mediums like this. Be able to connect with new people, make new friends, be a part of a community, even if we are more isolated than we've ever been. So I'm just thankful for the fact that we do have these platforms and that we do have the technology to be able to do so, because
Yeah.
Definitely.
yeah, it's given us a lot of opportunities.
Absolutely.
Mark, you're in
Absolutely.
lockdown, right? Still? Are you guys in lockdown
Correct.
also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Both. So yeah, I don't know what it looks like outside. There's not even a point to open the door anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah, in Ontario as well as Quebec, where Jules is from, we're locked down. So doesn't mean we can't go to the house, but they
Mhm.
strongly recommend us not. We don't have an actual curfew, but in Quebec, is there a
Yeah.
curfew?
We have to be, yeah, can't be on the road outside. You can't even be on the sidewalk. Literally, people have gotten tickets for being on the sidewalk in front of their house
Wow.
after 8 o'clock. Yeah, in the
Wow.
evening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
and it really does show how valuable, if this was 30 years ago, how much more difficult. I could argue both ways, but I think that it does allow us to still communicate and be somewhat involved, even without missing the, human interaction.
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. It's interesting to contrast, the two of you to myself. As I was telling you, Mark, before the podcast, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's just worlds different down here. I know there's other parts of the U.S. that are quite a bit different. We are in the Wild West over here in Arizona, but yeah, it's very, very different. Just it couldn't be more than worlds apart. Um, so yeah, it's as you said, in those parts of the world or even in the U.S., it's good to have these platforms and be able to connect. And speaking of connection, one of the other things that we have in common, Mark, is that you are also a dad. You've got kids that are about of the age where they can appreciate, the hobby. They can appreciate the brand. How has that impacted you in your content creation and just your overall passion for the hobby, being able to share that with the next generation?
You know what? It's been very rewarding. I have a daughter 5 years old, and she has been on my channel many times,
Hmm.
open up Pokemon cards with me, and just starting to learn how to read and all those good things. But she knows Pokemon like better than I do. She'll be able to look at that and be like, "That's a Bulbasaur. That's a Squirtle. That's a Staryu." Like she knows Gen 1 probably better, because I'm sure I've shared Gen 1 more with her than anything else. But uh,
Hmm.
she loves it. She loves horses, so Ponyta, really speaks to her, and Jigglypuff,
Yeah.
and even my son, who is 2.5. I mean, he knows Pikachu. It's
Hmm.
incredible to the brand of Pokemon, and what they've done worldwide, and why it is in the likes of Disney, and brands like that, because it is such a recognizable brand, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to share that with my daughter and my son is so fun. I now have a Nintendo Switch, and I play Pokemon Sword, and my son comes up and Pikachu, and they enjoy watching me play. So it's so fun to be able to interact with them, and that I'm not just off doing my own little thing. I can involve them in what I'm doing to some capacity.
Hmm. No, that's awesome, and I do like how you include them in your videos as well. You know, to be able to see, because the way that I see it, it's you're almost taking a little bit of a snapshot in time, as if you were doing maybe like a recording a home video. I know for myself, being a '90s kid, when I go back home to my parents, they have a bunch of the old VHS tapes of home movies from when we were kids. So I think it's a win-win because you get to create meaningful content, for yourself and for your community, and at the same time you're creating something that then you and your kids can look back on 10, 15, 30 years down the road, and share that bond that you had.
And don't get me wrong, it is extremely stressful. If my daughter picks the packs and she picks that Burning Shadows or Evolutions or a set that I really want to open, the way she opens the pack, she does a great job. But man, am I nervous that she's going to pull something good. And I mean, I want her to, but like,
Hmm.
a little nervous, a little bit nervous.
Yeah,
you're always
yeah.
you're always on standby to be like, okay, let's take the card, put in the sleeve here, just make sure.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yep. 10 steps back. Yeah, you're good.
That's funny. That's funny.
No, that's
Um,
awesome.
is that good, Shad, with the question for
Oh
that
yeah, and I
aspect?
was just gonna say, I guess I'm kind of jealous in a way too because my daughter, she's 2.5 as well, and
Oh, yeah.
she can say Pikachu or she'll recognize it. She'll always say Pikachu or Pokemon, but I don't think that Pokemon ranks at the top of her list. I think I have to admit it that I think probably Cocomelon would beat out Pokemon every time in her book.
I'm glad that hasn't entered my household yet, but I have heard a lot about it.
Oh yeah, don't let it because it'll never leave. It'll never
Oh,
leave.
that's good to know. Good to know. Good advice.
I have
Do
no
you plan
idea
to
what you
do?
guys are talking about.
Yeah, Jules, you'll learn soon enough. Soon enough. Give it a few more years.
Yeah,
Do you plan
that's
to
it.
involve your daughter more as she grows older, and then certainly as you're gonna have a son soon? I'm sure you're excited to be able to share a lot of these passions in the coming years.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, I would like to include them more, in content, but just being able to, show them, because I've been able to also, build a business around this as well. So I think that it's kind of a multifaceted thing where I can show them, hey, you can pursue things and you can do things in life that you actually have a passion for and can really make something out of it. So I think it's a good lesson in both regards. And yeah, we'll see how their interest goes. As kids get older, they kind of find their own way and
True.
develop their own traits, and they may just start to get annoyed with dad always opening up Pokemon cards and always watching it on television. So we'll see.
Yeah,
The
and
girls,
and that.
go ahead,
Sorry, go
Mark.
ahead,
Go ahead.
Jules. I was just going to say that you always will hope that they want to enjoy it and that they want to be passionate about it, and they
That's it.
always will go the other way. It's just the way, not always,
Yeah.
but I find that you try and push that so much on them, they're just going to be like, nah, I'd rather do this or do that.
Hmm.
It's interesting how they definitely have their own opinions and are very good at choosing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's always as if like when your parents used to tell you, no, you can't do this, and you wanted to know, okay, what if I do it, right? You kind of so what ends up happening is as you push it on them, like I already know probably how I'm gonna be a bit uh when it comes to all these things. I'm very go crazy when it comes to all these things, right? So I'll be like, okay, you need to like Spider-Man, you need to, because I collect a bunch of different stuff, Mark, as you can see in the
Yeah,
back of me. So
it's awesome.
basically, I know I'm gonna be like very all over them when it comes to, okay, you need to understand what's happening. I need you to look at this Excel sheet. We're gonna make this happen because I'm giving you all this stuff when I'm gone off of here, off this planet. So I need you to understand what's happening. But at the end of the day, like you guys said, they're gonna build their own personalities. They're gonna build their own likes and interests and hobbies. And at the end of the day, your children, as long as they're happy, you're happy as well, right? So I
Oh
don't
yeah.
have any kids, but I'm guessing that's what the
Oh, and
most.
get prepared, Jules. I can already see, you have a little girl. She's going to be playing house with your statues back there.
Hmm.
Your son, if you got a son, he's going to be stacking your graded comics on top of each other so that he can jump off.
Everything's gonna be
Just be
under lock and
prepared.
key. Lock
That's
and key
right.
the
That's
first
right.
5 years. That's funny. That's funny. It's so cool actually. I'm looking at it as a perspective of being myself. I have to take care of myself basically now, and I do what I have. And I have my disposable income, and I spend it on how I want it and everything. And then I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my god! Like when I do have a child, like this stuff, it's gonna be like secondary, and
Mhm.
only later will it come back, and it's gonna be fun to be in your guys' shoes and experience what you guys are experiencing in terms of sharing your passion with with your family, with your loved ones. That's I look
Mhm.
forward to that actually. It's gonna be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life changes. You roll with the waves. It comes and goes, and um, yeah, it's everything's a fun journey, and you try and enjoy it the best you can.
That's it.
Mhm.
That's it. Speaking of rolling with waves, Shad, I think now is a good time to maybe uh bring in some of that spiciness of those crazy prices that are happening with those let me let you finish that one off.
Yeah, so Mark, my big question for you, and I'm interested to get your perspective on this. Recently, here not too long ago, you just made a video about some of the crazy prices that we're seeing with the special delivery Pikachu. And I've been getting a lot of questions about this on my channel as well. So before I lead you, which I probably already have led you into kind of my bias on it, I'm interested to get your perspective on what you think is going on right now with some of these cards.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. The after I made the video, and I have a lot of people that either agree or disagree. They make good points, and I'm always going to look at it from one perspective. And other people, it's nice to hear other people's perspective because you say, "Hey, I never thought of it that way." And especially special delivery Pikachu, a free card sold for $14,000 as a PSA 10, and that's crazy. It doesn't make any sense for a free card. And I got some people that agreed and some people that disagreed. And now we've seen things, I think, move around a little bit. I think one sold today for $7,100, and there's some other ones that are available in that $7,000 range. I think the $14,000 one, I still don't. I didn't hear if it was a legitimate bid or not. I hadn't heard otherwise, but I think it was a little bit of that, Charizard, that black label Charizard. It was that hype of the first one that people saw available, and it got a ton of attention. And what I figured was going to happen is that there are, PSA is at a year backlog right now. How many special delivery Pikachus are waiting at PSA to be graded?
A
Yep.
boatload.
So a lot. And will they make it to 10? It's a great question because they were thrown into a box, not protected, bouncing around in the mail. So yeah, the likelihood there's going to be less PSA 10s available than PSA 9s, PSA 8s than normal, I would say. But it's just a question of supply and demand. That's what it always breaks down to. There
Mhm.
may be very few available, but in 1 year, will people care? That's going to be the big question because how many were printed, we don't know. There were a lot, but based on the level of demand that there will be in a year, will it demand that type of price? And I personally don't see it that way. I don't think it continue to go up. I think if anything, it will level out at some point after the hype is gone. And again, we've got special delivery Charizard coming out in maybe coming out at some
Mhm.
point. So it's really up in the air because it's the fear of missing out. That's why people are bidding crazy prices. I missed out on that special delivery Pikachu, or I couldn't get it because I'm not from North America. So I'm going to buy it now in the case that it's going to be even higher later. And that's what I think we
Mhm.
saw in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah. It's just it's so strange to me because we've actually had, even if you use the argument of it was only available in North America, so you call it a North American exclusive, we've had similar things in the past for Japan, Japanese
Mhm.
exclusive promo cards. and they have never reached the level of and I'll say it, insanity that I have seen with this particular card. And usually in the past it's something like a Charizard or some type of really rare card, whereas with this it was like you spend $25 on the Pokemon Center, you're getting this card coming in the mail. So it seems very, very strange to me. And I I I don't know. It's been something that's been very difficult for me to rationalize in my head. And I've heard the counter arguments, as you said. It was only released in North America. It was scarce. It wasn't as mass produced as many people thought it was going to be. But let's be honest. I have seen, if you go out onto eBay or you go out into pretty much any platform, you can find a boatload of these raw cards pretty much anywhere you go. And
Yep.
as you said, there is a good argument there as to, it was being shipped in the mail with other products, probably wasn't that well protected. Um, there is that argument to it. But at the same time, you can say the same thing about promo cards that are put into tins or to collection boxes. I mean, they're just in that single sleeve and placed in there. I've got some Shining Legends super premium collection boxes in there, and those cards are just placed into a little placeholder in there. And again, some of the promos in there do garner a higher value, but nothing, and they never have gotten to the level that we've seen with this special delivery Pikachu.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the fear of missing out. It's FOMO. It's people are regret that they didn't buy a product so that they could, they feel like they missed out, so they just need to correct that issue now. And I've heard many people, they're like, yeah, I bought one for 300, I bought one for 400 because I think it's going to go up. And I don't. I really think maybe in a short term, maybe there's an opportunity for it to go higher, but in the long term, I don't see it personally.
Mhm.
I think if it only has one way to go at this point, especially as PSA gets through their backlog.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I tell people, something all the time, that when a set is first released, like when you have a new set, whatever that chase card is, as soon as that set is released and those cards start coming out on the open market, especially graded PSA 9, PSA 10, they are always going to be at an exorbitant premium compared to what they will be 3 to 4, even 6 months down the line. They always come
Yep.
back down to, as you said, to an equilibrium. And I thought that by this point, maybe the community had become a little more educated, but it seems like, as you said, there's still this feeling of missing out on a product. And I think that for many people, when they see this, they're saying to themselves, wow, like this is really cheap. And they've seen like a card go for that 14,000 or 10,000. And they say to themselves, I got to jump on it now. Like it's worth spending the $300 or $400 on a raw card because there's a chance that I could, also garner that same type of value. And it's just, I don't know. To me, it's just a conundrum in my head. And Jules, you've been sitting over there pretty quietly. I'm interested to see what you have to say, because we haven't actually discussed this in private yet.
No, yeah, exactly. So it's funny. It's funny to see the perspective. I think I'm on the perspective of it's complete and utter insanity. It doesn't make absolutely any sense to me whatsoever. They made I'm putting at least, I was be very conservative. I made a video 2 days after you made your video. I had made it already, and then it posted 2 days after yours, Mark. They printed at least conservative 10,000 of these cards. At least. Very, very, very conservative number. And people went bananas. And like you said, in the last day, the 23rd of January until the 26th. So when we're filming this, the 26th. So in the last 3 days, basically from when we're filming this, there was at least 100 of these cards that were sold. So just the amount of transactions hand to hand that have happened, and again, not a 10, but the tens that we did see, like you said, I think it was 7,000 Canadian. Is that what you were saying? The one of 7,000 Canadian or
I think it
the
was
US?
7,000 US.
Okay. So the one that I had seen when I made my video was 5K US. And I thought that was absurd. And then the 14,000, I think it was stink bids. I think it was bogus. I don't think it actually passed. Again, my opinion. But FOMO has a play in there for sure. And I always like to go back to the comic book realm, because the comic book realm has been well, longer than the Pokemon industry has been there. Also, the same exact thing happens in comic books. There's a book that comes out, it's super exclusive, and you know how many they print. They print 500 or 200 of them because they tell you how much they printed of them. The book goes to a couple of $1,000, and that first guy that gets a 9.8 CGC that sells it on the market skyrockets that one price, and within 6 months, it's a fiasco of craziness. And after the 6 months, nobody even remembers what that book was. And your collection, if you had that book, is worth $0 because you didn't get in and you didn't get out right away. So I think it's a bunch of factors going towards this. A lot of new people in the industry have no idea what's happening, have not studied much of the market as well on certain products and promos and regular base set and so on. So they don't know what's happening. They just see the frenzy. They want to jump in full steam ahead. And then as soon as the captain blows the horn because everything's dead, then they jump out and we're done, right? So
Mhm.
I just think it's pure insanity right now with those cards and special delivery Charizard. We're probably gonna get it this year. They might push it back. I don't know. I still think it's coming out. Pre-orders selling for $500. How do you even know you're gonna get one now? How can you sell a pre-order of a card? You have no idea when's coming out. It's just like it's. I don't know.
Well,
That's my
and
opinion.
it how does it even make sense that you would be able to pre-order a card that would essentially, I mean, it's in the same realm as the special delivery Pikachu, right? Like you're giving it customarily if you're spending over a certain amount at the Pokemon Center.
That's what we
So
think. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know how pre-orders would even work.
Yeah, I think it's again, it's those people that they're preying on. You know, they're making assumptions and they're preying on people that just want it.
Mhm.
They want it
Exactly.
before anybody else gets it. And I've as the days have gone on, I'm not even convinced we're even going to see special delivery Charizard. I did a video a little while ago where I think Pokemon learned a lot, especially through the Bearwalker fiasco, the skateboard incident that just happened the last couple weeks. I think they don't have enough inventory to give away a free card to be able to
Mhm.
even justify putting it on the website right now. I think they're probably, if they release it, I bet they'll tie it to one item. I bet it's going to be you order this collection box or this SKU and you get it. I think it's gonna. They're not gonna do it the same. I think if they did it the same, it's gonna be a nightmare at the end of the day for everyone. Because Pokemon likes to see the hype, but I don't think they like to see them getting to the levels like they do. Because all it does is
Mhm.
create a lot of anxiety and frustration for the community. And Pokemon wants to make money. That's why they're here. They're making money. And if it's other people that are making money, they got to find a way to make them money themselves.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, because they're not seeing any of that, those secondary market transactions. Obviously, that means squat to them. And it's funny that you brought up the skateboards because to me, if there was one thing that has been released from the Pokemon Center recently that I think would be appreciating tremendously in value, it's the skateboards.
Hmm.
Not the special delivery Pikachu or the Charizard. It would
Yeah.
be those skateboards. And I don't know. I haven't really checked to see if people are trying to resell those out on the open market and what kind of premium they're trying to garner. Um, and maybe it is along the same lines as the Pikachu. Maybe you guys can fill me in on that.
You know they are, Shad. Come on. Deep down
Well, I know
inside.
they are,
Yeah.
but just in my mind, just with the hype around the TCG specifically, and not as much emphasis placed on other collectibles from Pokemon, to me, just going, with that herd mentality, I see more people spending more money and more of a premium on something like the card versus something that probably has a lot more inherent value to it, like, and more collectability, like the skateboards.
Exactly. I think the skateboard is right now 2 to 3 times the price is what you're seeing people selling it for, and I would never ever encourage anybody to buy it aftermarket just because that you're letting the scalpers win, and this will be the year of the
Mhm.
scalper, which is unfortunate, but that will be a collectible piece. I oddly enough was lucky enough to get one. And I'm excited when I have it. It's gonna actually go right there. That's where I'm planning to hang it. So I'm excited to own a skateboard. I haven't owned a skateboard in years, and buying a skateboard without planning to ride it. So that's very unusual, but it is going to be a collectible piece that I think will only go up. I think it's a slow burn, and I think that will, especially and more specifically because it's the 25th anniversary. I think that's what makes this extra special, and I think that that's the first of many incredible items that are going to come out that are not Pokemon TCG related, that are going to be
Mhm,
highly collectible. The Pokemon company is smart and they know how to make money, so there's going to be so many amazing products like that Bearwalker skateboard.
mhm,
Do we
mhm.
know?
That ac Go ahead, Jules.
Do we know how many? Mark, you got one. Do we know how many they created this time around and when they're releasing? Do you know?
I don't know yet. It
Okay.
hasn't shipped. It hasn't shipped at this point. In the previous waves, there was anywhere from 150 to 250. I would expect, and that was when they were releasing 5 skateboards. This time they just did one. So I think they would amp it up. So
Maybe 1,000.
1250, I would say
Okay.
to 2000.
Okay.
I think there's probably more than 1,000, but I could be wrong. I mean,
Mhm,
I think I would love. I mean, I'd love it to be less. Now that I have one, yeah, it makes it more valuable. But it's important. I think a lot of people the collectors should be able to have access to it. I think Pokemon's smart enough that they're gonna print a lot of everything.
mhm.
Yeah.
The question that came to my mind, this will be interesting discussion from like a collection standpoint, but even an investment standpoint. With taking into consideration something like the skateboards, could you see that, maybe Pokemon sets a precedent this year in the 25th anniversary where they start to release products that may eventually um, supersede the actual
Cards.
TCG?
Wow.
Hmm. It's hard to imagine, but I mean, they're smart. I mean, I think they've learned so much over these last few years. Why not? Why not? I think
Mhm.
they could come up with something new and exciting that catches on.
I think they should
What do you
start.
think? What do you think it would be? Just kind of off the top of your head, what do you think would be something that could overcome the TCG?
In terms of monetary value or in terms of volume of collectors.
Well, let's just let's discuss it from just a collectability standpoint first.
Hmm. Jules, you go ahead. You can start.
Listen, I think, okay, I've seen it with Marvel and DC. These statues in back of me, right? At the end of the day,
Hmm.
they're made of polystone. They're made of so many different materials. Whatever the case is, I think Pokemon has a market. Like, look, people buy plushies, right? To me, doesn't make sense. It's soft. It's squishy. I can't really show it off. It's hard to display sometimes. Sometimes they're not stiff enough, whatever the case is. I need something that's going to be rigid and solid. And that's why I have statues. Pokemon right now has a third party. They don't have any affiliation to them whatsoever, but there's third parties in Japan and China that are creating statues of Pokemon. And my brain, coming from the comics aspect as well, these things have a huge market for them despite them being a little bit more pricey compared to a plushie or a stuffed tutu or whatever the case is. I think there's an opening for Pokemon to get into that because at the end of the day, they made a skateboard, a very beautiful skateboard, mine nonetheless, because I've always wanted one, never was able to get it, but I'm not going to go pay those crazy prices because I don't have FOMO. But I think there's a entryway here for Pokemon to say, you know what, let's stop these little guys here doing knockoffs and whatever. Despite them having nice statues, I think they can produce their own crazy statues for the market. I think there's something there
Mhm.
to be done.
Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. And I think, something that that has come to my mind is now that we've really migrated into the digital age, you really have less and less actual tangible physical items. I could see that maybe Pokemon, like Jules, you've got comics back there. I think people feel that pull, that nostalgia towards comics because it's an actual, physical product that you can hold in your hands, and it brings you back to a time where that was a form of entertainment. Whereas now, Mark, you can attest to this. Your kids probably, watch a lot on the iPad. Everything is digital nowadays. You're not plugging in that VHS anymore. And so I could see, Pokemon maybe moving towards something like comics, manga, maybe delving more into that. And if not that, something again that is more of just that tangible feel to it that appeals to people from our generation, that gives us even more of that nostalgia pool to earlier times.
Tagging along with what you said there, my first thought, and I don't know what the actual item is or what it is, but I thought that Bitcoin was the first thing that came to my head, and how the world is changing a little bit, and Bitcoin has become a thing in terms of
Hmm.
investing, and how can, and I don't know the answer, but how does Pokemon continue to capitalize on it in a digital side of things? Because for me, I like the tangible. I prefer the
Hmm.
tangible, but I think the up and coming generation probably don't care quite as much as we do. I think there may be something there. I don't know what digital aspect of it that they could create some sort of scarcity. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm sure they're going to come up with something down the road that will appeal to a younger generation that we will never understand.
Hmm.
Pokemon money from the Game Boy games. Can you imagine how many, how many Pokemon coins do you guys got in your wallet right now? Guys, you heard it first here. They're gonna make Pokemon money. I'm in it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm throwing
There,
everything I got to that for sure. That'll be crazy. That's a good point, Mark. Bitcoin. Wow.
yeah.
Your brain is
Pokecoin.
mysterious.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Pokecoin.
That would be crazy. Wow.
But yeah, it is interesting, because as you said, Mark, and this is something that I've been pondering lately as well, is how is Pokemon going to change with new generations coming up, with a whole new kind of psychology around, what is enjoyable in the hobby? How is it going to adapt when we look at it 10 years from now? Is your kids, my kids, Jules' kids, when they're coming up, are they going to have the same type of appreciation for trading cards? Because although it is big right now, and although there's a lot of people, getting into the hobby, I would say that the vast majority is probably people, probably 20 to like 35, 40, people who actually, had these cards, again, part of that generation one group. And so I've been wondering to myself, like, how is the psychology of the market going to change? And maybe it stays the same, where people still enjoy the cards, but there isn't as much of an emphasis placed on the same cards that we've held in higher value or in higher
Mhm.
esteem. So I want, just to give an example, a trend that I've seen is a big push towards full art trainer cards. Seems like full art trainer
Yeah.
cards are really becoming popular among the community, and I think a lot of that is coming from the newer generation. So
It's all Jake's
I'm
fault.
interested. Yeah.
I think you're right, because I mean, I still, because I was in and out really Gen One. I'm very jealous of you and all the people that stayed a little bit longer and were there for the Gym Hero, Gym Challenge, the Neo
Hmm.
sets. Like I wish I was a part of that. So I hold near and dear Gen One. It trumps everything to me. I love Lugia and I love all these other Pokemon, but still Charizard's a Charizard, and that was what I wanted as a kid. So I still hold value in a Charizard. And full art trainers, yeah, they're cool. Like I like them. I'm playing Sword and Shield. I'm like, hey, I know that one from the card. Like I'm
Hmm.
learning, but I'm doing it backwards compared to what the younger generation are going to do. Like the
Hmm.
Charizard for them probably is still important because it's important to everybody, but they care about a lot more than what I care about. And
Hmm.
I think the full art trainer is a great example where we're seeing such a surge in that because people are appreciating those characters and the artworks compared to just what's valuable.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. We could see an actual push towards human characters from
Mm.
the hobby rather than the actual Pokemon themselves, where it kind of makes sense because, even for us as kids, um, there was a fascination. Like if you watch the anime, typically your favorite character from the anime was probably a human character. Maybe it was Ash or Misty or Brock or whomever. We could see something similar where the next generation, they appreciate more the actual human characters than the actual Pokemon, which is kind of a dissonance in my head. But again, you have to think in terms of what another generation might appeal to.
And bringing up that along that same thought process is how are they going to continue to one up themselves in terms of Pokemon cards? We started with just rare cards and holo rares, and then it moved into all these different variations, and we've seen amazing rares this year, and there's all these new things. I am a not just a Pokemon collector, but I love sports cards. I love hockey cards. I love
Hmm.
baseball, football, all that good stuff. And they have autographs, they have jersey cards, they have all
Mm,
these different things. And when will Pokemon get into that type of, and maybe it's just the artist. Maybe it comes with a special edition card where you've got one of the artist's signed cards. What would
Yeah.
be next to get people really excited? Because, how rare is a shiny
Mm.
Charizard? There are so many. When you think about how many they printed, yeah, it's a valuable card, but there are thousands upon tens of thousands of shiny Charizards out there.
Hmm.
When you get into the sports card world, you can get one of one cards, you can get one of 100 cards. Like, how much more crazy and valuable would that become if there was such a chase like that?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. It's really interesting too that you brought up the, like autographed type of cards. I think that would be something that would be awesome. But again, I think that, Pokemon, I don't think that their priority has ever really lied towards the collectors, or
That's true.
definitely not the
Very true.
investors. It's always been towards the competitive players. So it's creating cards that the players would want to construct a deck with. And I mean, there is some aspects to it, for collectors, certain cards, they're different artworks. They don't have to be like that. Like, if you're playing a certain card competitively, like it doesn't have to have flashy glitter and everything on it. It's just the actual strategy, or the you
The
know
mechanic of
the
the card,
the
basically.
mechanic. Exactly, that's
Yeah,
what I'm looking for, the mechanic of the card. So there is, an appeal to the collectors, but I think that their number one priority has always been the competitors. So if they
100% right.
did do
Yep.
something like that, I could see that. I could see them doing like maybe taking an example off of like the Mitsuhira Arita signed Charizard cards that go to PSA, something like that, where you do have signed art or signed signatures on the card itself. I think
Mhm.
that would be amazing. And like you said, maybe one of one, one of 100, something like that.
Like a patch, like in hockey, right? In hockey, football, and all that stuff, you get the patch cards. But in Pokemon, basically, what you would have, you'd have a patch Venusaur, and when you would use Razor Leaf, basically there would be a piece of grass or something in the card, and you would have to like throw it at the opponent to put in a human aspect of
That's
battling
right. Yeah. Make it
throughout the
real.
game. There you go. There you go. That's good.
Well,
That's
and
good.
and and not only that, if you did have, a particular card that was one of one, one of 100, you would then, in my opinion, you would have a very strong indication or data point to actually derive the value of that card. Where if it was just like, okay, we think that this special delivery Pikachu gets a price tag on the secondary market of, maybe it levels out at $5,000. Well, we don't even know how much of that is actually out there. Whereas if you did have something like, you knew the exact number of cards that were released, and that you kind of see that with trophy cards, with the high end trophy cards, because
Right.
you do know, like, how much of that, at least to some precise measure of how much of that is actually out there. And so, although those cards are exorbitantly expensive, they do in many ways earn the right to have that price point, because we do have strong data to indicate how much of them are actually out there.
Oh, it's very true. That's very true. It yeah, and when you mentioned, they definitely cater towards the play, not the collectors, because they want they want to make money, and again, that doesn't really help them too much, and especially with the world they're in right now. I mean, they can't print enough. So,
Mhm.
why make it even more, difficult for people to find the product? They want people to play the game. I think that's
Mhm.
very important to them, is to play the game.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
in the
definitely.
collectibles market in general, I think what it comes down to as well, um, we, from my recollection, there is no system out there, there is no catalog, there is no anything out there that I know of that shows how many of each card gets printed by Pokemon. Do you guys agree? Have you seen anything different?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
Never seen that. No.
Okay. In the comic book realm, there is this thing, there's this company, a secondary company. He built his own reputation now on trying to assess how many of each comic gets printed after a 3 month or 4 month period. He goes out and compiles the data and has information for the market to figure out of how many copies were printed. So you know when something was a short print or a low print versus when something was a higher print, right? I think someone out there, maybe we could do it. I don't know. It's going to be extremely difficult and extremely tedious, right? To go get those information, especially from 20 years ago back. But wouldn't it be better from a collector's aspect and from a financial aspect as well to have data like that available in terms of how many of each card were printed, let's say, from Pokemon? I think that would be interesting.
You're right. It would be interesting. I think it would be difficult, like you said, to compile, because I think the Pokemon company is very secretive about how much they print, because the more they print, the more they can make. And if we all knew how many shiny Charizards were out there, it may lower the value and lower the desirability of having and wanting an exclusive card. So, but
Mhm.
you're right. From a collector's standpoint, yeah, I would love to know. I mean, it will only potentially make my collection more valuable, or I guess arguably less valuable.
Exactly. And I think that's why we would never see that. They would never release that information to the public, because
But they
in the
cater
end,
they cater to the players, right? We just said they cater first to the players, and then whatever comes after that is right. But like at the end of the day, the players don't care how many there is, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm
I
not
mean, at
really
the
about
same, they
that one.
they 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 care about the players, but they really enjoy us collectors that spend a lot of money on Pokemon cards.
Mhm.
They don't
So
want to
yeah,
give
they
us any deterrent to not buy as much as we're already buying.
Exactly. So this is the way that I see it. So their first priority is the competitors. So they are going to develop cards in a certain set that is going to appeal to the competitive scene. But beyond that, it's like they've got kind of a multi-tiered system here of how they can maximize the amount of money that they're making. So they're going to appeal to the competitors first. They're going to get good mechanics out there that'll be competitive, that people want to build decks around. Beyond that, again, like I said, it doesn't matter to competitive players if they've got a bunch of glitter on a card or anything like that. So they say, all right, we're going to make, not only is this card going to be uh, very playable, but it is also going to be aesthetically pleasing to the collectors out there. So they're just kind of going down that checklist, and I guarantee that when they do develop sets, they're checking those various aspects off, because they don't want to leave those two segments out. And they're going to, and this is the other thing, and we've talked about it before, Jules. Um, Many of the cards that we find, especially if you go back to WotC era
Mhm.
or even EX, um, we as collectors or investors, we place a kind of a subjective value on particular cards, that, around things that don't seem like like anything inherently valuable in and of themselves. Take for example, like swirls, hollow cards that have swirls in them. Like that was the collectors that placed some kind of emphasis on that of, oh, it's this card has a swirl. You don't see a swirl in every type of hollow. Or like gold star cards, that was a big chase card just based upon the fact that it was the gold star itself was limited in its print. So we will always find value in cards, and we will always place value on cards based upon what may appear at first to be just erroneous things. You could even go further and go to like error cards. Sure, Pokemon would rather, if they could go back and do it again, they'd say to themselves, I wish we didn't have any error cards on the market, because it kind of looks bad on us from a production standpoint that those cards even exist. But because they exist, we now place an even higher premium on those cards. So
It's true. I
in it,
mean, sorry to interrupt there.
all I was going to say is inadvertently, they have built up even more of a collector base. It seems like no matter what they do, whether good or bad, it almost has positive ramifications for them in the end anyways.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, how unusual is it when we open up a pack and there's a miscut or very off-centered card, and I'm not a particular hunter of those, but there are a lot of people that really like those and value those. And
Mm-hmm.
you're right. I think Pokemon would be like, I'd rather fix that problem, but we find a way to make it's more scarce, so it's got to be more valuable.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. I think we can spend hours on that topic for sure. That's
Yeah.
that's a deep pit of back and forth. There
Yeah,
could be so many outcomes to that.
that's a black hole discussion for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So my next question, Mark, I guess, like at the beginning, I think you said, it might have been off camera, I can't remember exactly, but you said something along the lines of you're always learning still, right? When it comes to the hobby, when it comes to the TCG, whatever the case is, you're always learning about certain cards. And what's really funny is that I watched your video about 3 weeks back, I think it was, or 2 weeks back, and you learned from someone else the code card, right? That with the
Yeah.
white and green. Can you explain a little
Yeah.
bit about that?
Yeah, the code, it's so funny. I mean, for all of us, we all know that, like, uh what the difference of like a white and a green code card is, and it's been looking at us right in the face for so long that I had no idea that you can tell what, if you're going to have a hollow from this side
From
of
the
the card,
front, yeah.
from the front. And some people are like, wow, I didn't know that. Other people are like, I wish you didn't tell me that. But there is a distinguishing factor on the front of it where I could probably just show it in there in the camera. You've got one that says slash TCG and the other one that says slash redeem. And that's the way that you could tell the difference from the one side. And it's, how many packs of cards have I opened and never knew that? And again, when I shared that on my channel, the number of people that were like, I had no idea. I've been opening up Pokemon cards for how many years, and it's been right there, and I've just never looked. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
very unusual.
That's crazy. It's crazy to think that they would have did that to the front. But now that you know that, and you do see Real Breaking Nate gives his code card out last on every single pack that he's done, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
I always wondered why. I guess I said it was a personal choice. But when you said that, I'm like, well, that makes complete sense, because people know that he was getting a holographic or a GX card or whatever type of card before. So now when I'm going to open up my cards on my thing, on my channel, it's going to be the same thing. The card is going to have to be last, or riffle through the top 5 cards, find the hollow, and then give out the code card. So it's just
Right.
so interesting to have seen that. And learning is fun when it comes to this hobby. I didn't like learning as much in mathematics and all that stuff, but this is fun, you know.
This is where my brain power goes. It's about Pokemon. That's where I learn. But you're right. There's always something to learn, and that's that. No matter how long you've been in anything, no matter how much of an expert you are, and no matter what you do, if you are the best in the world at something, there's always more to learn. And if you have an approach of I know everything, that no one wants to watch, and nobody wants to listen to a know-it-all. it's nice to be able to understand that there's always more to learn and there's always ways to improve. And
Mhm.
I try and take that approach in every part of my life. Even though there's a lot of things I think I'm really good at, I know that I could always be better.
For sure, for sure. It's something that I always recommend on my channel as well. Is that there is too much to this hobby to know it all. There's
Mm-hmm.
just it's
Mhm.
far too expansive to know it all. So that's where having different content creators out there is so fantastic because I've been able to learn a lot. Just tonight, I had no idea about that. I had heard, like, I thought it was maybe just a rumor about the green and the white code cards. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's actually apps out there, or if you have your own website, you can have an app built in where you can actually sell those code cards online, and people usually pick those up depending on the set itself. Will usually garner anywhere from about, oh, you take like Champion's Path, usually get you about 20 cents a code card, but you get into like even Vivid Voltage gets up to about 75 cents per code card. So
Wow.
Hmm.
there's a lot of people out there who just basically buy and resell code cards. So it's actually, and I actually learned this through, I had no idea. I learned this through Danny Phantom, which is
Oh yeah.
another content creator. He's given out a lot of good information. So that's, again, that's the awesome thing about not only being a part of this community but being a content creator, is that you are exposed to a lot of different people, a lot of different insight information that you never knew existed before. And it's one of the reasons why Jules and I wanted to start this podcast, is to not only be able to provide others with insight from good people like yourself, but also to have an educational experience for ourselves. Because
Mm-hmm.
anytime that we've had a guest on, or I've got a podcast on my own channel, anytime I've had a guest on, you learn so much. And I always keep a notebook with me every podcast, because I'll jot down notes during the middle of the discussion. Because as you said, you should never take, in my opinion, you should never take the perspective that you know it all or you know enough. I think that's the perspective that people have, is they know enough, and that's usually when they stagnate, and they don't continue to get better or advance, or make something more of this hobby, or whatever it is, just kind of life in general. So I'm
And
glad you brought that up.
yeah, and this Pokemon phenomenon that we live in, there are so many layers to this hobby. I mean, just in Pokemon TCG, you think of all the different types of Poketubers that are out there. They all do something different, and they, all have their expertise. There's people that do the financial side, or they do the just raw openings, or they do maybe
Hmm.
gradings, or there's so many different layers, and that's just in the TCG. I mean, you can get into games, and you can get into, there's so much for everybody. And there's always going to be a content creator that is going to really um, speak to any individual. There's always going to be multiple ones that speak to an individual, to what they enjoy about Pokemon.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
And that actually brings me to a question that I'd like to ask you, Mark. Is, you've been on YouTube now for, you said, just over a year, correct?
Just under a year now.
Just under a year.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people, and I get a lot of inquiries myself, about people who are interested in starting up their own channel. What kind of advice do you have for people who are maybe thinking about creating their own channel? And along those same lines, how do they differentiate themselves, and where does Pokemon content creation go moving forward?
This has been an interesting thing that I've had a number of people ask me the same type of question, because there's people that are interested in creating their own channels and creating their own content, and or they're creating a channel and they're frustrated because it's not growing fast enough, or what am I doing wrong? And I think you need to first step back and say, okay, what is my expectation? What am I trying to do? If it's, I'm trying to make money, okay, that's an okay answer. If I'm trying to grow, that's an okay answer too. But understanding what your goals are is so important. because you don't want to let yourself down, and you don't want to set an unrealistic expectation for what you think you want to do. And you need to be passionate about it. You could like what Leonhardt does, or you could like what Real Breaking Nate or any of these PokeTubers do, but you got to be real. You don't want to necessarily create this fake persona and just try and do what someone else is doing. Be you, so you can be your best you. And honestly, it's when you are natural and comfortable and enjoying with what you're talking about, that's what people like to see. People like to see people being passionate and people being interesting. And there is 1.5 million things that you can do to improve your channel and be successful. But at the end of the day, do what you enjoy, and the rest will just continue to fall in place at that point. I think that's the starting point, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it's one of the pitfalls that I think many people face when trying to break into this space, is that they are trying to follow the framework of someone else. Perhaps it's someone else that they look up to, when they have to understand that the person that they look up to had to break the mold in order for them to be successful, or to get to the point that they're at. So, along with that, we have seen a little bit of a change in content creation, where, in the early days, I feel like it was, Gem Mint Pokemon, Primetime Pokemon back in the day when I was first getting back into it. They were kind of the prominent channels, and we're a little bit about education, but mainly opening up product. We've seen throughout the year 2020 a little bit more of an emphasis on education, just with more, just such a massive influx of people coming into the hobby. So a little more emphasis on education. And now we're starting to see a little bit more of an emphasis on things like live type of content. So live Q and A's, live box breaks. I think PokeRev has probably set the precedent for something like live box breaks. So I'm interested to see where you think the future of Pokemon content creation goes from here.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think there has been a race for a lot of people that have been chasing, infamy, or chasing, to grow and be the biggest. And everybody is just kind of following everybody. And like you said, box breaks have been popular, and there's a place for it. And some people love to participate in them, some people don't. The live aspect of it has continued to be very big, which is incredible. Where do I think it's going to go next? It's so tough to know. I mean, I think opening is always going to be a big part of it for a lot of people, especially the new people that are coming into the hobby. And as the 25th anniversary, I think a lot of things are going to change this year, because the 25th anniversary is here, and they're going to draw a whole new crowd back into Pokemon, whether they are new for the first time or are being brought back in like we have been within the last number of years. We're going to see a resurgence of people that are hyped up because of whatever the next big thing that Pokemon does is. So I think we're going to probably see every single one of those genres grow, because people are just trying to find their way and find what really gets them excited. I don't know if there's going to be anything new. I mean, if I knew that, I'd probably do it, because that would be a great place to start. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think?
Personally, I think that you're going to see, especially once we kind of get out of this post-COVID world, as things start to go back to normal, as people start to, come together again. I think there's going to be a little bit of a melding of lives with larger communities. So I think you're going to see content creators start to venture out, start to maybe have smaller little events with their communities, maybe in their geographic area, and then actually broadcast that. Maybe it's a live opening with members of your community at a particular place, maybe a local card game shop or something like that. But what I'm getting at here is that you're going to have that live aspect to it, which I think people are truly enjoying because of the lack of connection over the last year or so.
True.
So you're going to have that for, people who are remote that may live, far away from where that content creator is at, but then also connecting with your immediate community within your, immediate geographic area. So that's something that I could see, maybe starting to make a push. The other thing, and a guy who just recently jumped onto the scene is Pat Flynn. And one of the things that many people enjoy about his channel is that he gives a pretty thorough backstory on particular cards. So he goes through the process of explaining how he garnered the card, what he had to do to get it, just kind of a story tied to a particular card. And that makes sense to me because when you think back on like your fond memories as a kid, or even what you do now, a lot of the time it's not so much the card itself that you think of fondly, it's the process or what you did to acquire that card. It's like the
Mm.
journey to get the card is almost more important than the actual destination, and the destination being, the card itself. So I could see that making a push as well, maybe more of that storytelling aspect, getting more into kind of the nitty gritty of how different content creators acquire product, and just everything that went into it, because I think it serves a twofold purpose. It's entertaining, and it's a story, and I think people always enjoy storytelling. And beyond that, it kind of gives us some insight into how certain content creators are. It gives you a little bit more of an exposure into their life, how they go about things, how they uh maybe build content. And I think that's what people truly want to see. To know they want to get to know Millennial Collector. They want to
Mhm.
see, hey, I want to see how Mark acquires his product. I want to see how how maybe how his kids interact with them, and all these different things. So I think it's going to be the I guess the underlying theme that I'm getting at here is more of an interpersonal aspect that I think
Mm.
will just get stronger as we move forward.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That I never thought about it as much as you just explained it there, and I really like that. Because I think you're right. I think people are hungry for human interaction. I mean, I know I am, and it's I'm excited to be able to get back out and go to a pre-release event. Right, I've never done
Hmm.
that before because I've my most of my Pokemon, well, all of my Pokemon YouTube experience has been confined to a room or a house,
Hmm.
because I haven't been able to enjoy it, and where people are understanding that Pokemon, you don't have to. This is a fun. This is a fun hobby. Yes. Is this a kid's game? It is, but it is, but it isn't. It's more than that, and there's such a big community that we can relate to and connect with over this passion.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What do you think, Jules? What are
Mhm.
you thinking?
I think we've touched upon it too in the past, on some other episodes, but I like to bring it up because it was extremely fun when we did it. We did so as a content creator, right? You watch a couple of YouTube videos, you look to see what kind of SEO you should be doing with your videos, and how to do some titling and all that. And some of the good stuff is verses, right? People like to see verses, this versus that. So as a content creator for Pokemon, sometimes, especially when you're opening up cards, you do pack battles, right, Mark? Have you
Yep,
done pack battles in the past as well?
I I have. Yep.
It's kind of like a staple, I guess, when you're starting off also. And even down the line as you get bigger, it's fun, right? So
Mhm.
so I guess what it comes down to is we actually had Shad had started a Poke Bowl during Thanksgiving, during American Thanksgiving, basically in November. And we were 3 versus 3 on a Zoom call like this, basically. And we
Oh
pack
yeah.
battled each other, basically. We made two teams, and the one with the highest points, basically the team, won. So the interesting part would be to bring it back to the TCG side in terms of having some sort of tournament and playability aspect to it, for sure, would be a larger scale, larger format, live pack battle opening 5 versus 5. Let's say Leonhardt, Real Breaking Nate, whatever, whoever it is, even smaller guys, it doesn't matter. I think that would be cool to see. It would put a twist on opening the Pokemon cards, because at the end of the day, I still think that opening a pack of Pokemon cards, no matter how you look at it, you can only do it so many ways. So maybe just giving it that little bit of extra oomph to say, you know
Mhm.
what, as much as we're opening the cards, it's still it's putting that competition. Everybody likes that little bit of competition at the end of the day, right? Nobody usually backs away from some sort of competition. Fair play, just a little game, a little fun. So I think probably that would be something interesting for the future to come. Larger pack battles.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. It almost gives you a little bit of the maybe Pokemon Worlds vibe, where you've got, that's kind of a mecca for everyone within Pokemon, collectors,
Mm-hmm.
investors, content creators, competitive players, obviously. Um, and people are starving for that. They're starving for that connection, and especially the connection surrounded around a shared passion, and that passion in this case being Pokemon. So I do. I think that's the way that it's headed, and I hope personally that they host Pokemon Worlds this year. I'm truly hoping, because I, if they do, I'm getting my ticket as soon as they announce it.
And me too. I honestly, I would love to go if it's going to be in London, where I think it was supposed to be last year. I would love to go just from an experience standpoint. And I mean, a content creation standpoint, there would be endless things you can do there. But I love this hobby so much now. It makes sense to invest in that type of fashion. I think it would be really, really fun to be there.
hmm Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, and be able to meet, all these people, that we've talked to,
Yeah.
and just be able to have a fun weekend, because you see that among, the entire echelon of content creators, big and small. That's just kind of the nexus point where people can get together, because many of us are from, various parts of the world, and may not ever be able to see each other otherwise, and to have that one time of the year where everybody kind of comes together and meets up. It's just, I think it's such a special moment.
Mm,
Absolutely.
that would be fun. Do they have any like I go to Comic Cons 5 times a year. So like I get my fix when it comes to comic book stuff. Like I see a bunch of people, I meet people, like it's crazy to see. Is there any, like, other than Worlds of Pokemon, do they have like shows of Pokemon cards, or I don't know, like, does anybody know that? Do they have those types of things?
Well, I mean, they have like the regional tournaments, so different parts, like, and I'm sure they do this through all the world, but in the U.S. they have like the regional tournaments, so like Southwest, Pacific Northwest, South, East, stuff like that. So regional tournaments, which are big in and of themselves. They don't compare to Worlds, but they're still good sized events. And I
Mhm.
think that's kind of what Pokemon does. They kind of turn their regions or their worlds events into their version of Comic Con.
A
It
Comic Con,
really
okay.
yeah, exactly. They kind of tie it all into one.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Well, Jules, I think it's time to
Excellent.
hit our man Mark with those rapid fire questions. We've been
Yes.
giving him easy questions now. It's time to get
Oh
into
no,
the
those are the easy ones. Oh boy. Okay. All right. All right.
So pretty much, Mark, like we told you, we like to do something here with the guests. Just give a bit of rapid fire. You could make it one sentence. You can make it a word. It's as you wish. Okay. So there's no set out rules or anything like that. Um.
Perfect.
So basically, I'll go first. Okay, Shad. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm still gonna ask it. Favorite base set starter Pokemon.
Charmander.
Okay. Excellent. Um, craziest buy you have ever made, whether it's monetarily, whatever it's how as you interpret it, basically Pokemon related.
Um, oh man. Um, it would have been earlier this summer. I bought a part of a fossil booster box, and it was at the time. I mean, for the entire booster box was $6,000 Canadian. And for anyone that knows what box prices are now, that sounds like a heck of a deal. To convince my wife that this was a good investment, yeah, that would be it's not that much money now. Back then, it was like this seems crazy to be buying cards for that much money.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That's I see it. I see it in the background. Is that a sealed box or is that
Yes,
part of it? Okay, is that
that's
okay?
it's opened. We ended up opening it. Now looking back, it's like, why did we open it? And the gentleman that I bought it with, he also bought a jungle booster box as well, and it was around the same price. It was around $6,000, and now that's like 15,000.
Wow.
Mhm.
So it's pretty incredible. Just to hindsight, my goodness, if all of us just had known,
Yeah. Yeah.
rich.
Yeah, exactly. What's a lead up question? You said your wife, right? To convince your wife. Does your family um enjoy it? Do they are they happy for you when you collect these things? Are they, what's the word I'm looking for? Are they supportive? Are they supportive of you? Friends and family, are they supportive of you?
Definitely. I mean, I don't talk about this world too much, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't talk to anybody anymore. But my wife, yes, I think she thought I was a little bit silly, a little bit crazy to get back into Pokemon cards and spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on cardboard. But she understands and sees the value of things. My very first purchase, I had mentioned, I bought an entire base set for $325 about a little over a year ago, and got them all graded. And the Blastoise, as an example, came back as a PSA 10. And that card at its pinnacle was worth about $8,000 US, and
Mhm.
now it's probably back down around 3,000. But for that $325 purchase, just to put it into perspective for my wife, she's like, okay, that was a good job.
Good.
So I mean, it's only worth that much when I sell it, so that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
True, true.
It's funny, Mark, because I had a similar situation. You were talking about the partner that you had gone in with on the fossil booster box. Back in, it was probably maybe August or September of last year. The unlimited base set booster boxes were going for around 8,000 US. And I reached out to my dad, and I could have picked it up, and I again, hindsight 2020, should have. But it was one of those things where, my parents have known I've been in this for a while now, and they knew that I had started into YouTube, and I reached out to my dad because it was more or less kind of like a bonding thing. I wanted to go in on this together, and then we just split the profits, a year from then or whatever. And I told him, I said, hey, I think that this particular booster box is going to double in price at the very least over the course of a year. And my dad, he's pretty old school when it comes to investments, stocks, bonds, all that good stuff. And he's like, no, he's like, I can't do it. And I was getting real close to convincing him. And he finally backed out on it. And I said to myself, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit on this for a couple more months, and then I'll probably pick it up. Within 3 months, it had shot up to 35,000. And well, now it's back down to about 20. So it has seen a pretty significant retrace. But again, as you said, it's always 2020.
And when you do pull the trigger, it may be the time that it doesn't happen. And we can
Hmm.
all think we know what's going to happen this year with pricing, and things are going to go crazy, and the hobby's going to be massive. It might, but it might not. I mean, this is, at
Exactly.
the end of the day, this is, if you look at it from an investment standpoint, it's always risk. And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And you just hope that
Hmm.
you win more than you lose. And for people that want to invest, you got to go with what you can afford at the end of the day. I mean, if this is how you choose to spend your money and invest, that's okay. But don't overspend. It's it's at the end of the day, like you said, an inherent value. It is a piece of cardboard. There is no worth to a piece of cardboard other than what people will pay for it. So
That's it.
don't
Yep,
don't
exactly.
over leverage yourself.
Exactly.
That's right up
Exactly.
Shad's alley. I see his brain going, but like I don't know how much time we have left to go into that one.
Yeah, we better just jump into my questions because again, that's another black hole. But all right, so my questions for you, I'm gonna lead off with this one. I think it's a good one. So just going into the whole Dad conversation that we've had today. There's this conspiracy out there, and I'm interested to see your answer on this one. Who is Ash Ketchum's real dad?
Ooh, good question. Um, I've heard the theory about Giovanni.
Mhm.
I feel like that's too obvious. Um, I don't know. Well, like I don't even know if we will find out. I don't know if I have a hope or wish or a dream of who it's going to be. I don't know.
I've heard that there is some kind of, I think in the new movie, um, Coco, I think in
Coco, yeah.
English, yeah, I think it's what Call of the Forest or something like that. From what I've heard is there is like a little teaser in there that might hint towards who his real dad is.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I don't, again, I can't verify this information, but I was hearing that out in the ether.
Yeah.
What's
All
the
right.
what's the ether saying that who is it? Because now you
Uh,
just piqued my interest.
yeah, so they haven't, that's the thing. They've just basically said that
Oh,
there's a hint towards who his dad may be. And Pokemon is actually pretty good about keeping some of those things under wraps until it actually does hit the scene. So
That's good. I
it'd be
appreciate that.
interesting because that is an ongoing conspiracy that has existed forever. So, like you said, we may never find out. Other one, pretty easy. Well, maybe not easy, but a little less conspiratorial. Favorite card of all time.
Um, I think it's probably base set Charizard. I know it's very cliche to say, but it's the card I never had. I have it now, but it was the card I always wanted, and it would always hold a special place in my heart.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, I can
He's
see
down.
that.
He's down to the core. A base man. He's. You could see it. He just oozes that base. I love those base cards.
I mean, I also loved. It's funny when I look through like Fossil Jungle and base set. Um, I don't remember. Like I was sad enough that I sold my set many years ago. I wish I kept it because it didn't mean anything to me back in the. I probably was around 2008 maybe that I moved on from that part of my life. And but when I'm flipping through the cards now, I can look at them and say, this card feels special to me. Like a Vaporeon holographic from Jungle, that's special to me because I know I
Mhm.
had it. And there's cards that I can look at, like a Scyther. I did not have a Scyther. I don't have any, like, I think it's a cool card, but it doesn't hold any specific value to me. And it's the cards that I look at and say, it maybe isn't monetarily the valuable one. I mean, Vaporeon is, but there are other ones that I look at, like a Mr. Mime, and I had that card, so it means something to me. And Charizard is the card that it was the card that got away. So that's probably what would mean the most to me.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. So this is kind of a strange question, and this one will be interesting. So out of your five senses, which we'll go ahead and leave taste to the side, and you'll see why. But out of your five senses, if someone said you could only use one of your senses when it came to a Pokemon card. Say it was your base set Charizard, and they said you could only experience it with one of your five senses. I mean, who knows? Maybe you want to taste it. I don't know. But out of those five senses, they said you could only experience it with one. Which would it be, and why?
That's really interesting. I mean, the natural answer is your eyes, um, because that's apart from that and touch. But um, for some reason, my ears. I think I'd want ears. If a card could talk, I think I would be interested to know what a card would say. Now I know cards can't talk, but
Mhm.
hypothetically, I think I would be very interested to hear cards because I think they all have their own different stories.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a
Yeah,
that's
that's a good
good.
answer. Yeah, I was not expecting that. I was not expect. That's a really good answer. It's kind of
Yeah.
like like if the walls could speak type
Hmm.
of thing. Yeah. Yeah, just their journey, and what they've experienced, maybe how many hands that they've
Yeah.
passed through throughout the years. Now that's really interesting. Um I mine personally would be smell. And
Mm.
maybe you can attest to this as well, having opened up a jungle booster box. But when you open up, like especially those vintage packs, like there's a smell that comes out of there that it immediately takes me back. So when I was a kid, I'm not going to get into a big story here, I promise. But when I was a kid, I lived in a really small town in Northeast Arizona, and we didn't have any Pokemon cards there. And so we had to drive to a neighboring town, which was about 20 minutes away. That was the closest place where we could get cards. And every weekend, my grandma would drive me over there. We'd get lunch. She'd buy me a couple packs of cards, and then we would come back home. And when I got back into the hobby and I opened up that first pack, and I think it was Fossil or Jungle was like the first vintage pack that I had opened up, and the smell that came out of there from 1999, it just immediately, I was sitting in the passenger seat of my grandma's car, and and I could just see that whole picture in my mind of going to the card shop, what it looked like, and that sense of smell just immediately brought that back. So it's just amazing, it's just amazing what your senses can do and the kind of memories that can come back so vividly.
I think that is an absolutely perfect answer. And for anybody watching or listening, that's why we are all in this hobby. This is what it's about. It is not about the money. For some people it is, but it's about the memories that were there and the ones that we're going to make. It is such a special thing that we can connect with our family, our friends, and even just our old memories about. That's loved it. Love it.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, well,
good.
thank
That's
you for
good.
yours as well, man. That was an
Yeah.
excellent answer. Really good.
Yeah.
Was not expecting that at all. I guess for the new collectors now and all the modern stuff with the actual textures, some might say touch at the end of the day, right? Because let's say you
Yeah.
put us back when we were collecting Watsy era, you can't really touch anything. They all felt the same. That's what I think, right? They all feel the same at
Mhm.
the end of the day.
Mm.
But now, amazing rares have some sort of grittiness texture to the
Mhm.
front of them. And you have your full arts that have some sort of texture as well. So it's interesting to see if you actually put yourself in different time periods, you might answer differently than when we're all coming from Watsy era base set and all that stuff. So it's just cool to see everybody's perspective. But Mark, you just blew me out of the water with that answer. I was not expecting that whatsoever.
Well, good.
That's good. Shad, you got another one?
That's it, man. I think that's a good one to leave off on. I think that pretty much captures this conversation in a nutshell right there.
That's it. That's it. Wow. That's what do we got here? I think we're like an hour and a half almost into this. It was a good conversation. Mark, did you enjoy your time here on the episode?
I did. You know what? It's speaking with like-minded people that are passionate about it. It feels good to be able to talk. And as much as I would love to be in the same room and be able to interact with you guys, this is about as good as we can do right now. But what do you guys say? We'll meet up at Worlds when the 20 later this year,
Yeah.
London.
Hey, man,
That's the plan.
as soon as yeah, if they announce it, I'm getting my ticket right away.
If it's
That's gonna
London, I can convince my wife. I'd be like, we're going to London, England. She'll be like, okay, I'm in. Like it's for
Yeah,
Pokemon. She's like, I don't care. That's fine.
yeah. You go do your Pokemon thing. I'm gonna go tour the city. Yeah.
Yeah.
that would be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah.
So, Mark, again, from Shad and I, and Shad's gonna give you his thanks as well. I would like to personally thank you for accepting to be on the episode. And I really appreciate it from a Canadian collector's perspective as well. We have usually a US American, so it's cool. I usually have a lot more American friends too when it comes to the Pokemon side of it. So I really appreciate you being on here and getting a Canadian connection perspective also on YouTube content creation and on Pokemon in general. But before I pass it to Shad for his thanks, I'd just like to say, if people are watching for the first time or listening for the first time and they'd like to get to know you better on your channel, you have the floor. What kind of socials do you have, and where can they find you?
Definitely, yeah. So on YouTube, Millennial Collector, that's where I am, and as the name explains, I'm a millennial. As a lot of us are, even though a lot of people say you're not a millennial, you're like a 40 or something like that. So, but no, 40-year-olds are millennials now. But yes, you can. And I'm not 40, just to be clear. I'm not that old. So. Um, so yes, Millennial Collector on YouTube. I also have Instagram. I've got Facebook. I've got Twitter. Millennial Collector. You'll find me there as well. And I mentioned to Jules before the podcast as well. I'm diving even a little bit further as of this weekend or the first of next week sometime. I'm going to be creating a website myself where I'm going to be reselling product as well. So
Awesome.
getting product is challenging, but at this point, it's going to be just for the Canadian market, but I assume it's going to continue to grow from there. So the website is www.collectmore.ca. So I'm excited to be able to get into that world a little bit more and understand the challenges that distributors go through with product. So yeah, but yeah, I'd love to meet new people, and it's a little bit more of a laid back, relaxed feel on my channel. I always try and one up myself and improve my quality, improve my content. So yeah, definitely consider checking me out if you're interested.
Excellent. Shad?
Yeah, I just want to thank you again, Mark. Thank you for being on here with us tonight. You're providing a lot of great content to the community. You're a stand-up guy, and I wish you all the best, not only with your channel, but this new venture of getting out into the distributor world and reselling products. And you guys definitely go check them out, especially if you are a Canadian, because Jules and Mark can probably both attest to the fact that sometimes it's not easy to get product in Canada, especially if we're going across borders, US to Canada. So definitely lean on Mark and look forward to some of the products that he has. But yeah, other than that, Mark, truly appreciate your time for being here with us tonight, and wish you all the best, buddy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate both you guys. That's been a lot of fun, and yeah, this was great. Thank you for inviting me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Mark, with that being said, we had a blast. I'm glad you had fun as well. And guys, to all you fellows and gals and men, women, everybody that's listening to us out there, just we hope that you appreciate it. We try to get the guests on as we come. And you know what? We're having fun doing this. And the guests have fun. We've had guests in the past that said they've had fun as well. So I think we're doing something good here, and we really appreciate your time listening to us, watching us on YouTube. And guys, with that being said, we're going to end the episode there. Stick with it. Thank you again so much. We'll see you guys all in the next one. Take it easy.
See you later, everybody.